Victoria Monroe had exactly 3 minutes to steal the biggest client pitch of her career, and the man standing between her and that corner office was adjusting his tie like he already owned the place. The conference room buzzed with nervous energy as the senior partners filed in, their expressions giving nothing away. Victoria smoothed down her navy blazer and clutched her presentation folder tighter. 6 years at Hartford and Associates, the most prestigious publishing house in New York, had led to this moment. Executive editor position. Her dream job. Her inevitable next step. Then Bradley Caldwell walked in. She recognized him immediately, though they had never formally met. Bradley Caldwell, the publishing world's golden boy who had turned his family's failing literary magazine into a multimedia empire, worth $40 million, before selling it at 32. Now, at 34, he apparently wanted to play in the traditional publishing sandbox, and Hartford and Associates had recruited him with promises Victoria could only imagine. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that looked effortlessly styled and a jawline that belonged on magazine covers rather than behind an editor's desk. His charcoal suit probably cost more than her monthly rent. When his blue eyes met hers across the room, something flickered in them. Recognition, competition. She could not tell. Victoria Monroe, Bradley Caldwell, their boss, Richard Hartford himself, made the introduction with barely concealed glee. The old man loved drama, and pitting two talented candidates against each other for a single promotion was exactly his style. You will both be presenting your vision for Hartford's future today. May the best editor win. Bradley extended his hand, looking forward to the competition. His grip was firm, confident, almost annoyingly so. Victoria matched it with her own. Likewise, that was a lie. She was not looking forward to competing against a millionaire who probably saw this job as a fun hobby, while she needed it to validate every sacrifice she had made. 6 years of 60-hour weeks, missed family dinners, abandoned relationships, all building toward this promotion. Richard gestured toward the table. Bradley, you will present first. Impress me. Victoria took her seat, forcing herself to maintain a neutral expression as Bradley connected his laptop to the projector. She had spent 3 months preparing her presentation, researching market trends, meeting with agents, building relationships with up-and-coming authors. Whatever he was about to show, she would match it. Except Bradley Caldwell did not just match expectations. He exceeded them spectacularly. His presentation was sharp, innovative, mixing traditional literary excellence with modern marketing strategies. He proposed a hybrid model that would revolutionize how Hartford acquired and promoted new voices. He had numbers, projections, even preliminary author interest. It was polished, professional, and maddeningly impressive. When he finished, the partners applauded. Actually applauded. Victoria's stomach sank, but she kept her expression composed. Her turn came, and she delivered her presentation with every ounce of passion and expertise she possessed. She highlighted her years of experience, her proven track record, her deep connections in the literary community. She made a strong case for gradual, sustainable growth built on Hartford's prestigious reputation. It was good. She knew it was good, but was it $40 million sale good? Was it boy wonder of publishing good? The meeting ended with Richard promising a decision within the week. Victoria gathered her materials and headed for the door, desperate to escape before her professional mask cracked. Hey, wait up. Bradley's voice stopped her in the hallway. She turned slowly, raising an eyebrow. That was a solid presentation, he said, catching up to her. Your section on nurturing literary fiction in a commercial market was particularly insightful. Thanks, Victoria replied coolly. Yours was very polished. I especially appreciated the part where you completely revolutionized a 100-year-old publishing house in a 30-minute PowerPoint. His mouth twitched with something that might have been amusement. Too much. Just enough to make me want to throw my laptop at you. Now he definitely smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his face from generically handsome to devastatingly attractive. Victoria felt an unwelcome flutter in her chest and immediately suppressed it. Absolutely not. He was the competition, the obstacle, the privileged millionaire playing at being an editor while she fought for everything she had earned. Look, Bradley said, his tone shifting to something more serious. I know this is awkward. We both want the same thing. Do we? Victoria challenged. Because I need this promotion. I have worked toward it for 6 years. What do you need it for? A new challenge. Something to tell your friends at country club brunches. His expression hardened. You do not know anything about me. I know you are Bradley Caldwell, boy genius who sold his company for $40 million. I know you could buy and sell this entire publishing house if you wanted to. So forgive me for wondering why you are taking a job I actually need to survive. Maybe I love publishing, he said quietly. Maybe that $40 million came with a 5-year non-compete clause that just expired, and this is the only world I have ever wanted to be part of. Maybe assuming everyone with money has no legitimate ambition says more about you than me. Victoria felt heat creep up her neck. He had a point, and she hated that he had a point. This is going to be a long week, she muttered. Probably, Bradley agreed. Then, inexplicably, he smiled again. Want to get coffee and commiserate about how much we both hate Richard for making us do this? She should say no. She should absolutely say no. Fine, Victoria heard herself say, but I am buying my own coffee. I do not need any favors from the competition. They ended up at a small cafe 3 blocks from the office, sitting across from each other in a corner booth. Victoria ordered a regular coffee. Bradley ordered something complicated with oat milk and an extra shot of espresso that the barista seemed thrilled to make for him. So, Bradley said once they were settled. 6 years at Hartford. That's impressive loyalty. It has not been about loyalty, Victoria replied, wrapping her hands around her warm cup. It has been about building something. I started as an editorial assistant right out of grad school, worked my way up through every position. Associate editor, senior editor, now this. Columbia. He guessed. NYU, she corrected. Full scholarship, Yale, but let us not hold that against me. His self-deprecating tone surprised her. My family expected it. Publishing dynasty and all that. Dynasty. My great-grandfather started Caldwell Literary Review in 1947. My grandfather expanded it. My father ran it into the ground through spectacularly bad decisions and worse investments. Bradley's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I spent my 20s trying to save it, failed, then built something new from the ashes. Sold it because the investors wanted to take it in a direction I could not stomach. And now here I am, trying to prove I can do this without my family name or my own company behind me. Victoria studied him over the rim of her cup. That was not the story she had expected. The business press had portrayed his sale as a triumphant cash-out, not a forced exit. Why Hartford? She asked. You could have gone anywhere. Richard Hartford published my favorite book when I was 15, Bradley said simply. A literary novel about a boy learning to navigate his father's expectations. It changed my life, made me realize publishing could be about more than profit margins. So when he called and said he was looking for someone to help lead Hartford into the next generation, I could not say no. Damn it. Victoria did not want to relate to him. She did not want to understand his motivations or see the genuine passion in his eyes when he talked about books. What about you? Bradley asked. Why publishing? My mother was a librarian in Queens, Victoria said. She used to bring home damaged books that the library was discarding. We had hundreds of them, stacked in every corner of our apartment. She taught me that stories were bridges, ways to understand lives completely different from our own. When she died my sophomore year of college, I knew I wanted to spend my life bringing those bridges to other people. Bradley's expression softened. I am sorry about your mother. It was 10 years ago. Victoria straightened her shoulders, uncomfortable with the vulnerability. Anyway, that is why I need this promotion. It is not just about money or status. It is about having the power to decide which stories get told, which voices get heard. That is why I need it too, Bradley said quietly. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their competing dreams hanging between them. This is going to be a miserable week, Victoria finally said. Absolutely terrible, Bradley agreed. But he was smiling, and despite herself, Victoria smiled back. The week turned out to be even worse than anticipated. Richard, in his infinite wisdom, decided that since both candidates were so qualified, they should work together on a special project before he made his final decision. A test, he called it. A chance to see how they collaborated under pressure. The project: acquire and develop a debut novel from an exciting new author who had just fired her previous publisher in a very public dispute. Melissa Chen, a young Asian-American writer whose manuscript about generational trauma and the immigrant experience had generated significant buzz in literary circles. She was brilliant, difficult, and currently represented by one of the most formidable agents in New York. Whoever could sign Melissa and present a viable publication strategy would have a significant advantage in the promotion decision. You want us to work together to compete against each other? Victoria had asked, incredulous, when Richard announced the project. I want to see how you handle complexity, Richard replied, looking far too pleased with himself. Publishing is collaborative, but it is also competitive. Show me you can do both. So Victoria found herself sharing a cramped office with Bradley Caldwell, their desks pushed together, their competing strategies laid bare. It was infuriating. Bradley was meticulous, organized, arriving each morning with a detailed plan for the day. Victoria was more instinctive, preferring to adapt on the fly. They clashed over approach, over messaging, over who should take the lead in the pitch meeting. We need structure, Bradley insisted on the second day, pointing at his color-coded spreadsheet. Melissa's agent responds to professionalism. Melissa is an artist, Victoria countered. She needs to know we will fight for her vision, not just process her through a corporate system. Passion matters more than spreadsheets. You can have both, Bradley argued. You can be passionate and organized. You can also be so organized that you forget what you are actually fighting for. They glared at each other across their shared desk. You are incredibly stubborn, Bradley said. You are incredibly rigid, Victoria shot back. This is going well, Bradley muttered, returning his attention to his laptop. But slowly, grudgingly, they found a rhythm. Bradley's strategic planning actually did provide a helpful framework, Victoria admitted to no one but herself. And her instinctive understanding of what made a manuscript special helped focus their pitch in ways his market analysis could not capture. They spent long hours together, often working past midnight, surviving on terrible office coffee and takeout that Bradley insisted on paying for despite Victoria's protests. You bought dinner last night, he said on the third evening when she tried to hand him cash for her portion of the Thai food. Let me get this one. This is not a date, Caldwell. We are competing for the same job. I am aware, Monroe. I am also aware that you are a human being who deserves to eat without calculating whether you can afford pad CU. She wanted to argue, but she was too tired and too hungry. Fine, but I get the next one. As they worked, Victoria learned things about Bradley that contradicted her initial assumptions. He was not just a privileged millionaire coasting on his family name. He genuinely cared about books, could quote passages from obscure literary novels, stayed up until 3 in the morning reading debut manuscripts with the same intensity he brought to market analysis. He was also funny, with a dry wit that caught her off guard and made her laugh despite herself. I think we should position Melissa's book as a commercial literary crossover, Bradley said during one late-night strategy session. Strong enough writing for the critics, accessible enough story for book clubs. So like The Namesake or Everything I Never Told You, Victoria mused. That could work, but we need to emphasize that we will not sand down her rough edges to chase sales. Her anger is part of what makes the book powerful. Agreed. The scene where she confronts her mother about the sacrifices she never asked for, Bradley shook his head. That is the emotional core. We do not touch it. Victoria looked at him with newfound respect. You actually read the whole manuscript. Of course I read it. Did you think I was just skimming? I thought you might be relying on reader reports. Bradley looked genuinely offended. I would never acquire a book I had not read personally. That is lazy editing. Okay, Victoria held up her hands. I stand corrected. You are not a corporate sellout. High praise from Victoria Monroe, Bradley said dryly, but he was smiling. The night before their pitch meeting with Melissa and her agent, they stayed at the office until nearly 2 in the morning, rehearsing their presentation, anticipating objections, refining their offer. We are as ready as we are going to be, Victoria finally said, rubbing her tired eyes. We should go home, get some sleep. Probably, Bradley agreed, but neither of them moved. The office was quiet around them, the Manhattan skyline glittering through the windows. In the dim light, with exhaustion softening their competitive edges, something shifted between them. Can I ask you something? Bradley said. Sure. Why do you assume the worst about me? His tone was curious rather than accusatory. From the first moment we met, you decided I was some privileged asshole taking opportunities from more deserving people. Why? Victoria considered deflecting, then decided honesty was easier at 2 in the morning. Because I have spent my entire career watching mediocre men get promoted over more qualified women. And then you walked in with your perfect suit and your millions of dollars and your Yale degree, and Richard practically rolled out a red carpet. It felt like the same story all over again. Bradley absorbed this. That is fair, and I am sorry you have experienced that. But I am not those men, Victoria. I have actually earned what I have. Maybe not in the same way you have, maybe with more advantages, but I have worked for it. And I am here because I love this work, not because I think I am entitled to it. I know that now, Victoria admitted quietly. You have proven it this week. You are a good editor, Bradley. Really good. You are too, he said. Better than me in some ways, your instincts about emotional resonance in manuscripts. I have been editing for 12 years and I do not have that gift. The compliment warmed her more than it should have. We make a pretty good team, actually. We do, Bradley agreed, his gaze holding hers. Which is unfortunate, considering one of us is about to lose this job to the other. Reality crashed back in. The promotion, the competition, the fact that their week of collaboration was about to end in someone's disappointment. Right, Victoria said, breaking eye contact. We should definitely get some sleep before tomorrow. Victoria, Bradley said as she gathered her things. She turned back. Whatever happens with the promotion, I am glad we did this. I am glad I got to know you. Her heart did something complicated in her chest. Me too. The pitch meeting with Melissa Chen and her agent, Catherine Wu, was scheduled for 10 in the morning at Catherine's office in Midtown. Victoria wore her best dress, a deep burgundy sheath that made her feel powerful and professional. Bradley wore another impeccable suit, navy this time, and they arrived together, presenting a united front. Catherine was formidable, exactly as advertised, a tiny woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and sharper questions. Melissa was younger than Victoria expected, only 26, with an intensity that radiated off her in waves. "We have heard pitches from 5 publishers," Catherine said without preamble. "You have 30 minutes to tell us why Hartford and Associates is the right home for Melissa's work." Bradley and Victoria exchanged a glance, then launched into the presentation they had spent a week perfecting. They tag-teamed beautifully, Victoria talking about the emotional power of the manuscript, Bradley presenting the marketing strategy. They addressed Melissa's concerns about her previous publisher directly, promising editorial support without creative interference, aggressive promotion without compromising the book's integrity. "Hartford has a reputation for respecting literary voices," Victoria said, leaning forward. "We do not publish books we do not believe in, and we do not ask authors to change their vision to chase trends. Your anger, your honesty, your refusal to make your immigrant experience palatable for white readers. That is exactly what makes this book essential." Melissa's expression shifted slightly, interest kindling. Bradley picked up the thread. "And we can back that editorial commitment with serious resources. We are proposing a 2-book deal with a significant marketing budget, advance reader campaigns targeting book clubs and universities, festival appearances, and a publicity strategy that positions you as an important new voice in American literature." He slid the formal offer across the table. The advance made Victoria's eyes widen slightly. Richard had clearly authorized them to be aggressive. Catherine examined the offer while Melissa studied both of them intently. "Why do you both care about this book?" Melissa asked suddenly. "Forget the marketing budget and the publicity strategy. Why do you personally want to publish my story?" Victoria did not hesitate. "Because my mother was an immigrant. From Ireland, not China, but she understood what it meant to be displaced, to try to belong somewhere that did not quite want you. She never talked about it much, but I saw it in how she moved through the world, always slightly apologetic for taking up space. Your book gives voice to all the things she could not say. I want other daughters of immigrants to read it and feel seen." Melissa's eyes glistened slightly. "My family came to America in 1903, Bradley added. "By the time I was born, we were so thoroughly assimilated that we had forgotten what we lost in that process. Your book reminded me that assimilation is not just about gaining something. It is about loss too. About sacrificing parts of yourself to fit into a culture that demands conformity. That is a story that needs to be told, and you tell it better than anyone I have read." The room was quiet for a long moment. Catherine and Melissa exchanged a look, some unspoken communication passing between them. "We will need to discuss this," Catherine finally said. "We will have a decision by end of day." Outside on the Manhattan sidewalk, Victoria and Bradley stood in the spring sunshine, adrenaline still coursing through them. "That went well," Bradley said. "I think." "It went really well," Victoria agreed. "We were good in there, we were." He looked at her, something complicated in his expression. "Victoria, can I take you to lunch? A real lunch, not a competition strategy session. Just 2 people who have spent an intense week together and might actually enjoy each other's company." She should say no. They were still competing for the same promotion. Getting personally involved was a terrible idea. "Yes," Victoria said. "I would like that." They went to a small Italian restaurant in the village, the kind of place with checkered tablecloths and wine bottles as candle holders. It felt intimate, romantic even, and Victoria tried not to think about what that meant. Over pasta and wine, they talked about things beyond work. Bradley told her about his complicated relationship with his father, who had never forgiven him for selling the family magazine, even though it had been failing. Victoria told him about her two younger brothers, both teachers in the Bronx, both thinking she had sold out by going into corporate publishing. "You did not sell out," Bradley said firmly. "You are bringing important books to readers. That matters. My brothers think I should have become a teacher like them, something more directly impactful. There are different kinds of impact. The right book can change someone's life. Your mother knew that." Victoria felt her throat tighten. "She would have liked you, I think. She always said I was too quick to judge people." "Was she right?" "Usually," Victoria admitted. "I judged you pretty harshly that first day." "I noticed," Bradley said dryly. "The laptop-throwing comment was subtle," she laughed. "I should apologize for that. You have been nothing but professional and collaborative this whole week. I was wrong about you." "I like that you challenge me," Bradley said, his gaze intent. "Most people treat me with kid gloves because of my money or my family name. You came at me like I had to prove myself. It was refreshing." "Well, you did prove yourself. You are a legitimately great editor, Bradley." "So are you, Victoria, and whatever Richard decides about this promotion, that is true. You have nothing left to prove." The sincerity in his voice made her chest ache. How had she gone from despising this man to feeling like he understood her better than people she had known for years? "What happens after this week?" Victoria asked quietly. "After Richard makes his decision and one of us gets the promotion and the other does not." Bradley was silent for a moment, twirling his wine glass. "I do not know, but I know I do not want to stop knowing you, whatever happens professionally. That will be complicated, probably." He reached across the table, his hand covering hers. "But maybe it is worth being complicated." Victoria looked down at their joined hands, her heart racing. This was dangerous territory, getting emotionally involved with her direct competitor. But the warmth of his palm against hers felt inevitable, like they had been heading toward this moment from the instant he walked into that conference room. "Maybe," she whispered. They lingered over lunch for 2 hours, reluctant to return to the office and the reality of their competition. But eventually, they had to go back. Catherine called at 4:30. Melissa had chosen Hartford and Associates. They had won the account. Victoria and Bradley celebrated with champagne that Richard provided, toasting their successful collaboration. But the unspoken question hung between them. Now what? The answer came the next morning when Richard summoned them both to his office. "Congratulations on acquiring Melissa Chen," Richard said, leaning back in his leather chair. "Impressive work, both of you. Which brings me to my decision about the executive editor position." Victoria's stomach clenched. This was it. A week of working intimately with Bradley had made her forget that they were ultimately opponents, that one of them was about to be devastated. "I have given this considerable thought," Richard continued. "You both have extraordinary strengths. Victoria, your editorial instincts and passion for literary fiction are unmatched. Bradley, your strategic vision and industry connections are invaluable. Which is why I have decided to create 2 executive editor positions instead of 1. Victoria's head snapped up. "What? You will both be promoted," Richard said, looking immensely pleased with himself. "Victoria, you will oversee literary fiction and memoir. Bradley, you will handle commercial fiction and narrative nonfiction. You will collaborate on major acquisitions and share decision-making authority. Think of it as co-leadership." Victoria looked at Bradley, who appeared equally stunned. "Richard, I do not understand," Bradley said slowly. "This was not the original plan. Plans change. Watching you two work together this week showed me something. You are better together than either of you would be alone. You balance each other out, so why choose when I can have both?" It was manipulative, classic Richard Hartford, but Victoria could not bring herself to be angry. She had gotten her promotion, her dream job, without having to watch Bradley lose his. "What do you think?" Bradley asked her, once they had left Richard's office. "I think I am relieved I do not have to watch you be disappointed," Victoria admitted. "And maybe a little excited about getting to keep working with you." "Just a little excited," she smiled. "Okay, maybe more than a little. You have grown on me, Caldwell." "Good," he said, his expression warm. "Because you have definitely grown on me, Monroe." The weeks that followed their dual promotion were a whirlwind of transition. Victoria moved into her new office, larger and brighter, with actual windows overlooking Madison Avenue. Bradley's office was 2 doors down, and they fell into an easy rhythm of collaboration, sharing coffee in the mornings, debating manuscript acquisitions over lunch, occasionally working late into the evening when a project demanded it. Melissa Chen's book was scheduled for publication in 9 months, and they threw themselves into preparing it for launch. Working with Melissa was challenging. She had strong opinions about every aspect of production, but also rewarding. Her passion for the work reminded Victoria why she had fallen in love with publishing in the first place. But beneath the professional success, something else was building between Victoria and Bradley. Something neither of them was quite ready to name. It started small. Bradley began bringing her favorite coffee order without being asked, the simple house blend she preferred over fancy espresso drinks. Victoria started keeping the good chocolate in her desk drawer, the expensive dark chocolate Bradley admitted he was addicted to, and leaving pieces on his desk when he was having a difficult day. They found excuses to stay late together, their conversation drifting from work to personal topics, learning the details of each other's lives. Victoria discovered that Bradley had a younger sister who taught art in Brooklyn, that he played piano when he was stressed, that he had broken his arm as a kid by falling out of a tree he had been warned not to climb. Bradley learned that Victoria stress-baked, that she had a secret love of terrible reality television, that she had once wanted to be a novelist before deciding she preferred helping other people tell their stories. "Why do I feel like I have known you for years instead of weeks?" Victoria asked one evening as they sat in her office reviewing cover concepts for Melissa's book. Bradley looked up from the designs spread across her desk. "Maybe because we do not waste time on surface-level small talk. We started with the real stuff from day one." The real stuff being insulting each other about our qualifications. Exactly. Very efficient. His eyes were warm with humor. Victoria laughed, shaking her head. "I really did judge you unfairly that first day. You have apologized for that approximately 15 times now. I think we can consider the matter closed. Still, I was wrong. You are not some privileged millionaire playing at publishing. You are the real thing." "So are you," Bradley said softly. "The best editor I have ever worked with, actually." The air between them shifted, charged with something electric. They were alone in the office, the rest of the staff having gone home hours ago. The Manhattan skyline glittered through Victoria's windows, and suddenly the space felt much smaller, more intimate. "Bradley," Victoria began, not sure what she was going to say. He stood, closing the distance between them. "Can I ask you something, anything? Have I been imagining this thing between us?" His voice was low, uncertain in a way she had never heard before. "Because if I have, tell me now and I will stop. I will be professional and appropriate, and I will never bring it up again. But if you feel it too—" "I feel it too," Victoria whispered. Bradley exhaled, relief and joy flooding his expression. Then he was cupping her face in his hands, his thumbs stroking her cheekbones, his eyes searching hers for permission. "I have wanted to kiss you since that first coffee shop," he admitted. "When you were glaring at me over your cup like you were trying to decide if I was worth your time." "I was definitely not thinking about kissing you then," Victoria said, but she was smiling. "That came later, maybe the third late night, when you were explaining why you loved that obscure Polish novel and your whole face lit up. That is when I knew I was in trouble." "We are both in trouble," Bradley murmured. Then he kissed her, soft and sweet and absolutely perfect. Victoria melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, weeks of tension and attraction finally finding release. He tasted like the mint tea he had been drinking, and his arms around her felt safe and thrilling all at once. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Bradley rested his forehead against hers. "This complicates things," he said. "Probably," Victoria agreed. "We are co-workers." "Co-executives, actually. Hartford does not have a policy against workplace relationships. I checked." "You checked?" Victoria pulled back to look at him, eyebrows raised. He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "I wanted to know if this was even a possibility before I let myself keep falling for you." Her heart skipped. "Falling for me?" "Yes," Bradley said simply. "I am falling for you, Victoria. Have been since you threatened to throw your laptop at me. Maybe I am crazy, but I think this could be something real." Victoria thought about all the reasons she should be cautious. They had known each other only a few weeks. They worked together in a high-pressure environment. She had never been good at relationships, always prioritizing her career over romance. But looking at Bradley, feeling the way her whole body came alive in his presence, she realized some risks were worth taking. "I am falling for you too," she admitted, "and it terrifies me." "Good," Bradley said, pulling her close again. "It terrifies me too. Let us be terrified together." They kept their relationship quiet at first, not hiding exactly but not advertising it either. They wanted to see if what they had could survive outside the bubble of late-night office conversations and shared work triumphs. Bradley took her to dinner at restaurants where they could talk for hours without checking their phones. They went to bookstores and argued good-naturedly about which debuts deserved more attention. He came to her apartment in Queens, charming her skeptical brothers by remembering details about their lives and asking genuine questions about their teaching careers. "He is nothing like I expected," her younger brother David admitted after Bradley left one Sunday dinner. "I thought he would be pretentious, but he is actually a good guy." "He really is," Victoria said, surprised by how much Bradley fitting into her family mattered to her. She met his sister Brianna a few weeks later at an art gallery opening in Brooklyn. Brianna was warm and funny, greeting Victoria with a hug like they were already friends. "Bradley talks about you constantly," Brianna confided while Bradley was getting them drinks. "I have never seen him like this, so happy and settled." "We have only been together a couple months," Victoria protested. "I know, but my brother does not do anything halfway. When he commits fully." Brianna studied her thoughtfully. "I hope you are ready for that." The comment stayed with Victoria. Was she ready for someone who loved as intensely as Bradley seemed to? She had spent so much of her life protecting herself, focusing on work, keeping people at arm's length, but Bradley was not people. He was the person who understood her ambition because he shared it, who challenged her to be better while accepting exactly who she was, who made her laugh and think and feel things she had been avoiding for years. By the time Melissa Chen's book was ready for publication, Victoria and Bradley had been together for 5 months. They still had not told the office officially, though she suspected people were figuring it out from the way they looked at each other in meetings. The publication launch was spectacular. Reviews were glowing, calling Melissa's book essential reading, a new American classic in the making. Sales exceeded projections. Awards buzz started immediately. At the launch party, held at a trendy literary bar in Manhattan, Victoria stood with Bradley watching Melissa give a heartfelt speech thanking them for believing in her vision. "We did good," Bradley said quietly, his hand finding hers in the crowded room. "We did," Victoria agreed. "I could not have done it without you." "Same. We make a good team, Monroe, the best team, Caldwell." Later, after most of the crowd had dispersed and they were helping clean up, Richard Hartford pulled them aside. "I know about you too," he said without preamble. "And before you panic, I approve. You are professionals, you are producing excellent work, and frankly, I have never seen either of you happier. Just keep it discreet and do not let it interfere with the job." Victoria felt her face flush. "Richard, I promise we have been completely professional." "I know. That is why I am fine with it." Richard actually smiled, a rare, genuine expression. "You two are the future of this company. Act like it." After he left, Victoria and Bradley looked at each other and burst out laughing. "So much for keeping it quiet," Victoria said. "Apparently we are the worst secret keepers in publishing," Bradley agreed. He pulled her closer, not caring who might see. "Does this mean I can finally kiss you goodnight in the office?" "Absolutely not. We are going to remain completely professional at work. You are no fun, Monroe." "You knew that when you started dating me, Caldwell." But she was smiling as she said it, and when he kissed her anyway, she kissed him back. The seasons changed. Summer turned to fall, and Melissa's book continued its climb up bestseller lists. Victoria and Bradley acquired more exciting projects, building Hartford's reputation as the home for bold, diverse voices in literary fiction. Their relationship deepened too, moving from the exciting uncertainty of new love to something more substantial and real. They argued sometimes, passionate debates about editorial decisions or priorities, but they always worked through it, respecting each other's perspectives even when they disagreed. Victoria realized she was in love with Bradley on a Tuesday afternoon in October. They were in his office, arguing about whether to acquire a controversial memoir that would definitely generate headlines but might alienate some of their authors. "We cannot make decisions based on fear of controversy," Bradley was saying, his intensity focused entirely on her. "If we believe in the story, we fight for it." "I am not afraid of controversy," Victoria countered. "I am worried about our responsibility to other voices who might get lost in the noise this would create. Then we make sure those voices do not get lost. We work twice as hard to support everyone on our list, but we do not say no to important stories because they are difficult." Victoria looked at him, this man who pushed her to be braver, who believed in fighting for what mattered, who loved books and her and the whole messy business of publishing with equal fervor. "I love you," she said. Bradley stopped mid-argument, his eyes widening. "What?" "I love you," Victoria repeated, more confident now. "I love how you see the world, how you challenge me, how you care about things that matter. I love you, and I wanted you to know." A smile spread across his face, transforming him. "I love you too. I have loved you since you threatened to throw your laptop at me, I think. That seems like a strange moment to fall in love. You were so fierce and passionate and absolutely certain of your worth. How could I not love you?" Bradley crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. "Victoria Monroe, you are the best thing that has ever happened to me." She kissed him, pouring everything she felt into it. When they pulled apart, she was crying a little happy tears that Bradley gently wiped away. "We are supposed to be talking about the memoir," she said, laughing through the tears. "The memoir can wait. This is more important." They did acquire the controversial memoir, and it did generate headlines, but they handled it carefully, supporting their author while making sure their other voices were equally championed. It was hard work, but they did it together, and that made all the difference. Winter came, bringing holidays and celebrations. Bradley met Victoria's extended family at a chaotic Christmas gathering in Queens, charming her aunts and playing video games with her teenage cousins. Victoria spent New Year's Eve at the Caldwell family estate in Connecticut, nervous about meeting Bradley's father for the first time. James Caldwell was exactly as formidable as she had imagined, a tall man in his 70s with piercing blue eyes and a stern expression. He barely spoke to Victoria during dinner, and she felt the weight of his judgment throughout the evening. "He hates me," Victoria whispered to Bradley after the meal. "He does not hate you. He is just suspicious of anyone I care about." Later, as they were preparing to leave, James pulled Victoria aside. "My son tells me you are a good editor," he said without preamble. "I try to be," Victoria replied, lifting her chin. She refused to be intimidated. "He also tells me you challenge him, push him to take risks he might otherwise avoid. We challenge each other. That is what makes us good partners." James studied her for a long moment. Bradley has never brought anyone to meet the family before. In all his years, all his relationships, he kept that part of his life separate. The fact that he brought you here tells me you are important to him. "He is important to me too," Victoria said firmly. "Good. He deserves someone who sees him for who he is, not just what he has accomplished or who his family is." James's expression softened slightly. "Take care of my son, Miss Monroe." "I will," Victoria promised, "and he will take care of me. That is how this works." James actually smiled, a brief expression that reminded her of Bradley. "You will do, I think." It was not quite a blessing, but it was close enough. Spring arrived again, marking a year since Victoria and Bradley had first competed for the same promotion. So much had changed since that tense day in the conference room. They were planning a summer trip to Italy, a publishing conference in Florence that they would extend into a vacation. Victoria was excited about the prospect of exploring Tuscan hill towns with Bradley, of having uninterrupted time away from the demands of the office. But Bradley had other plans. On a Thursday evening in April, he asked Victoria to meet him at the first coffee shop where they had gone together, the place where they had started to see each other as people rather than competitors. "Why are we here?" Victoria asked, sliding into their old booth. "Anniversary," Bradley said simply. "1 year since I met the woman who changed my life." Victoria's heart swelled. "You are such a romantic. Only for you." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "Victoria, this year with you has been the best of my life. You have made me better, challenged me, loved me in ways I did not know I needed. Every day with you is an adventure I never want to end." "Bradley," Victoria said, her voice shaking slightly because she could see where this was going. He slid out of the booth, kneeling beside their table. Pulling a small velvet box from his pocket, he opened it to reveal a beautiful vintage ring, a sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. "Victoria Monroe, will you marry me?" The coffee shop went silent around them, other patrons realizing what was happening. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "Yes," she said, her voice breaking. "Yes, of course I will marry you." Bradley slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood and pulled her into a kiss as the coffee shop erupted in applause. "I love you," he murmured against her lips. "I am going to love you for the rest of my life." "I love you too," Victoria replied. My rival turned into my future. Who would have thought? Richard Hartford, apparently. He knew we would be perfect together before we did. Victoria laughed, giddy with joy. We should send him a thank you card. Let us send him a wedding invitation instead. They planned a fall wedding, giving themselves 6 months to organize while managing their busy work schedules. Melissa Chen's book won a prestigious literary award, cementing Hartford's reputation as a powerhouse for diverse voices. Victoria and Bradley celebrated with their team, proud of what they had built together. The wedding took place in October, in a small chapel in upstate New York surrounded by fall foliage. Victoria wore a simple ivory dress that made her feel beautiful and confident. Bradley looked impossibly handsome in his tuxedo, his eyes never leaving her as she walked down the aisle. David walked her down, their mother's absence a quiet ache they both carried. But the chapel was filled with love, with friends and family who had supported them, who had watched them transform from rivals to partners to something deeper and more permanent. "You are sure about this?" David whispered as they reached the altar. "Because I will fight him if you are not." Victoria laughed, tears streaming down her face. "I am sure. He is the one, David." Bradley took her hands, his grip warm and steady. "Victoria," he said when it was time for vows. "A year and a half ago, I walked into a conference room and met a woman who looked at me like I had to prove myself worthy of being there. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. You have pushed me, challenged me, and loved me better than I deserve. You see me, the real me, and somehow decided I was worth keeping. I promise to spend every day earning that faith. I promise to support your dreams as fiercely as you support mine. I promise to argue with you about manuscripts and always let you buy your own coffee and love you with everything I have. You are my rival, my partner, my best friend, my future. I love you." Victoria was openly crying now. "Bradley, I thought I knew what I wanted from life. A career, success, respect in my field. And then you showed up and showed me that I could have all of that and something more. Someone who understands my ambition because he shares it. Someone who makes me laugh and think and feel safe being vulnerable. You turned my whole world upside down in the best possible way. I promise to be your partner in all things, to build a life and a legacy with you, to love you through every challenge and celebration. You are my unexpected gift, the rival who became my everything. I love you." When the officiant pronounced them married, Bradley kissed her deeply, and the chapel erupted in cheers. The reception was held at a nearby vineyard, casual and joyful, with good food and better wine. Richard Hartford gave a toast, joking about his genius in pitting them against each other. "I take full credit for this marriage," he announced to general laughter. "Never let anyone say I do not know how to spot chemistry." "He is impossible," Victoria muttered to Bradley as they danced their first dance as husband and wife. "He is also completely right, which makes it worse," Bradley replied, spinning her gently. "We would have killed each other if we had not fallen in love, or killed him for manipulating us so shamelessly. That too." Later, after most of the guests had gone home and they were sitting on the vineyard's porch watching the stars, Bradley pulled Victoria close. "How are you feeling, Mrs. Caldwell?" Victoria considered. She had decided to keep her name professionally. Monroe had been her identity for so long, but the sound of Mrs. Caldwell still sent a thrill through her. "Happy," she said simply. "Happier than I thought possible." "Me too." Bradley kissed her temple. "Thank you for taking a chance on me." "Thank you for being worth the chance." They honeymooned in Italy as planned, spending 2 weeks exploring Florence, Rome, and the Tuscan countryside. They visited bookstores and museums, ate incredible food, and spent lazy afternoons in bed at their villa. just enjoying being together without deadlines or obligations. "We could stay here forever," Victoria said one afternoon, lying in Bradley's arms as golden sunlight streamed through the windows. "Tempting, but Hartford would probably fire us both," Bradley replied, running his fingers through her hair. "Though maybe that would not be the worst thing. We could start our own publishing house. Caldwell Monroe Press." "Monroe Caldwell Press," Victoria corrected automatically. "Of course. Ladies first." He kissed her. "Would you actually want that, to leave Hartford and do our own thing?" Victoria thought about it. A year ago, the idea of leaving Hartford would have been unthinkable. The company had been her entire identity, her dream realized. But now, lying in Bradley's arms, she realized her dreams had expanded to include so much more. "Maybe someday," she said, "but not yet. I like what we are building at Hartford, and Richard needs us to keep him from making terrible decisions." "True. Someone has to save him from his worst impulses." They returned to New York tanned and relaxed, ready to tackle the fall publishing season. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm, demanding but fulfilling. They moved into a new apartment in Brooklyn, bigger than either of their previous places, with room for the life they were building together. "We need a reading room," Bradley insisted as they unpacked boxes. "With floor-to-ceiling bookshelves." "Obviously," Victoria agreed, "and a good kitchen. I need space to stress bake, and a guest room for when my sister visits, and a home office we can share." They created a space that was uniquely theirs, filled with books and photographs and comfortable furniture. It was not fancy or impressive like some of Bradley's friends' homes, but it was warm and lived in and perfect. The years passed in a blur of books and love and shared ambition. They acquired authors who went on to win major awards, published stories that started important conversations, built Hartford into one of the most respected literary publishers in the country. Victoria was promoted to editorial director at 33, Bradley to publisher at 35. They were a powerhouse team, known throughout the industry for their eye for talent and their unwavering support of diverse voices. They also built a life outside of work. Weekend trips to visit family, dinner parties with friends, quiet evenings at home reading manuscripts and debating their merits. Bradley taught Victoria to play piano. She taught him to bake her mother's famous soda bread. They adopted a rescue dog named Scout who had terrible manners but unlimited affection. "We should talk about kids," Bradley said one night, 3 years into their marriage. They were in bed, Scout snoring at their feet, both reading before sleep. Victoria lowered her book. "Kids? I want them," Bradley said. "With you, someday. But I know you are focused on your career and I do not want to pressure you." Victoria considered. She had never been sure about children, had always thought her career would be enough. But looking at Bradley, imagining a little boy with his blue eyes or a little girl with his stubborn determination, she felt something shift inside her. "I want them too," she realized. "Not right now, maybe in a year or two, but yes, I want to build that with you." Bradley's face lit up. "Really? Really? You will be an amazing father. You will be an incredible mother," Bradley countered, pulling her close. "Our kids are going to be so loved, and probably completely obsessed with books." "That is a given," Victoria laughed. 2 years later, Victoria gave birth to a baby girl they named Alina Rose, after both their mothers. She was perfect, with Bradley's blue eyes and Victoria's determined expression, and she completed their family in ways neither of them had fully anticipated. Becoming parents changed them, softened some of their workaholic edges. They started leaving the office at reasonable hours, turning down projects that would have demanded too much time away from Alina. Richard grumbled but understood, especially when Bradley promoted 2 talented junior editors to share their workload. You two started a trend, Richard complained good-naturedly. Now everyone wants work-life balance. Imagine that, Victoria said dryly. People wanting to have actual lives outside the office. Revolutionary. But they still loved the work, still felt the thrill of discovering a new voice or shepherding a manuscript to publication. They just did it with different priorities now, building a legacy that included both professional achievement and family. When Alina was 2, Victoria and Bradley finally did start their own small imprint under the Hartford umbrella, Monroe and Caldwell Books, focused specifically on debut literary fiction by writers from underrepresented communities. It was everything they had dreamed of, a chance to shape the industry in meaningful ways while maintaining the security and resources of Hartford's backing. Melissa Chen, whose career they had launched all those years ago, was one of their first authors, bringing them her 3rd novel with gratitude for the editors who had believed in her from the beginning. "You two changed my life," Melissa said at the launch party for Monroe and Caldwell Books. "I want to be part of what you are building here." It was validation of everything they had worked toward, proof that taking risks on important voices created ripples that extended far beyond a single book. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Bradley surprised Victoria with a weekend trip to the coffee shop where he had proposed, which had somehow survived Manhattan's ruthless real estate market. "I cannot believe this place is still here," Victoria said, sliding into their old booth. "I may have become a silent investor to make sure it stayed open," Bradley admitted. "This place is important to us." Victoria laughed, shaking her head. "You are ridiculous. You love it." "I do. I really do." They sat in comfortable silence, drinking coffee and watching the world pass by outside. So much had changed since that first tense meeting in the conference room, since the week they had spent competing and collaborating and falling in love. "Do you ever think about how different our lives would be if Richard had just picked one of us for that promotion?" Victoria asked. "All the time," Bradley admitted. "I think about the life I would have missed. Alina, this partnership, everything that matters most. Me too. I was so angry at you that first day, so convinced you were taking something that belonged to me. And now I know you brought something better than I had imagined. A partnership, a family, a life that is richer because we are in it together." Bradley took her hand, bringing it to his lips. "To the next 10 years. To the next 50, Victoria corrected. They kept that promise. As the years passed, they built something extraordinary together, not just in publishing but in life. They raised Alina and later, her brother Marcus, teaching them to love books and question everything and fight for what mattered. They published dozens of award-winning authors, changed industry standards for diversity and representation, became mentors to the next generation of editors. But more than any professional achievement, they built a love that sustained them through every challenge and celebrated every joy. A love that had started as competition and transformed into partnership, collaboration, and finally something that could not be separated from who they fundamentally were. On Victoria's 50th birthday, Bradley threw her a surprise party at Hartford's offices, filling the space with everyone who had been part of their journey. Authors, colleagues, friends, family. Richard Hartford, now retired but still attending every important event, gave a rambling speech about his genius in forcing them to work together. "I knew from the first moment," Richard insisted, to general laughter and groans. "The chemistry was obvious." "The chemistry was obvious hatred," Victoria corrected, but she was smiling. "Same thing in romance," Richard replied sagely. Later, after the party wound down and they were alone in their office, Bradley pulled Victoria close. "50 looks good on you," he said. "You are biased, completely. Have been since you threatened to throw your laptop at me. Victoria laughed, the sound rich and happy. Best threat I ever made. Best competition I ever entered, Bradley agreed. He kissed her, and Victoria melted into him like she always did, like she always would. 20 years together, and he could still make her heart race, still surprise her, still make her grateful for the day he had walked into that conference room and challenged everything she thought she wanted. "I love you," she said when they pulled apart. "I love you too," Bradley replied. "My rival, my partner, my future. Always." And it was true. From competition to collaboration to love, they had built something that would last forever. A legacy measured not just in books published or awards won, but in the life they had created together, the family they had raised, the love they shared. It had started with a promotion they both wanted and neither could have. It became something better than either had imagined. A future built on respect, partnership, passion, and the kind of love that turned rivals into soulmates. Years later, when people asked how they had met, Victoria and Bradley would smile at each other, that secret smile of couples who shared history. "We competed against each other for a job," Bradley would say. "And we both won," Victoria would finish, because in the end that was the truth. They had both won everything that mattered: the promotion, the partnership, the love, the life. They had turned competition into the foundation for something extraordinary, proving that sometimes the person standing in your way is actually the person meant to walk beside you forever. Their story became legend at Hartford and Associates, told to new employees as an example of how the right partnership could change everything. But for Victoria and Bradley, it was simply their life, the beautiful reality they woke up to every morning. From rivals to lovers to partners for life, they had built something that would endure. A publishing empire, a family, a love story that proved the best things in life often came from unexpected places. And it all started with a competition, a promotion, and two people too stubborn to back down, who found something better than winning when they found each other.